Seems to help. So it's needed to stay around every day. Take me through the songs that you done is.
We'll get there.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I guess.
All right, it is 5 o'clock, so let's go ahead and call the meeting to order. And you guys will take a look at the minutes. And we'll, do the minutes first.
Can we get started?
Yeah. Mr. Minor, can you hear us? Yes. Third page.
Third page. First dot. 3, 4 lines down. Refers to Mr. Roger.
Does it?
That's supposed to be Mr. Minor.
Correct. We'll get that updated.
Accept.
Move.
All right, we have, one, we have a second.
Second.
All right, roll call vote. Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Sure.
Yes.
Minor? Mr. Okay, and I'm a yes, so that will pass. All right, moving on to discussion items. Adam, discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding airport financials.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. So this month, I do not have any financials to present to you tonight. I received financials at about 8:30 this morning. With this schedule of today, there's just no way that I was able to vet those. With the financials presented at a quick glance, there was already issues dating back to the previous board meeting that was still evident. And so I've reached out multiple times trying to have discussion, sit down conversation with how to go over the financials, to go over multiple things. There's been, to my quick glance this afternoon, there's been 6 times where I've tried to reach out to the various folks of how dating back to 3/19, so the 19th of March. Called the office. The 20th of March, I called the office. The 22nd, I called the office. The 20th, I emailed about a meeting to Mr. Joseph Wynn. 3/26 to the staff accountant, Mr. Corey. And then on 4/14, I emailed Mr. Corey again about the financials, the need thereof to have those presented to me for review. And got them this morning and just don't have enough time to work with them on those with the jam-packed day that I had. So one thing that I have mentioned to the treasurer, but we haven't had time to talk this afternoon after looking at this. I brought up to you all before the different firms that we've had, the financials not being accurate, the behind, at one point it was 6 months. And I'm not looking for any sort of motion tonight, but it is something that I believe needs to be addressed. I think that, we have been at somewhat of a distance as far as expectations. And that's all I have for the airport financials.
As a treasurer, I'd like to make a comment.
Program two. These financials, it works both ways. There was a time for months and months and months, the airport was running down there having checks made, they got stopped, they got to write checks, do this, do that. No way to run an accounting system, is one thing. And then at the last board meeting, the financials were up to date. Financials are not 6 months behind. And
So the
one of the
financials,
reasons they got behind,
I think Minor's got the floor.
the warehouse, it's tax season, taxes are due. I could understand, Joseph being busy right now. There was comments made for a number of months that they're supposed to be there at every meeting and they weren't required to be there. If they're requested, then they try to attend. But I'm not for changing, accounting firms just to change accounting firms. When there's no advantage that I see at all. That's my 2 cents worth.
I have floor. So I got one call from Adam one time about warehouse, and it was today at 4:00 on my way to the airport while I was on the phone. I've had no prior conversations with Adam about warehouse. We spent a year being told that they were supposed to be at the meeting, that they were obligated to be at the meeting. We were told by Adam that they were obligated to be at the meeting. I asked him one time, where's the contract? And instantly he said, they're not required to be at the meeting. So we have these expectation on the board that they're not complying with something that's their contractual obligation to do for almost a year. And they were at some of the meetings. Now, I got no problem if they're required to be at the meetings, spanking them for not being here. I don't know whether there's a personality conflict, but I called Joseph Wynn this morning at 7:29 and said, hey, what's the deal with the financials? He said, I haven't had a chance to dot the i's and cross the t's, and that's why I haven't sent them to Adam. I go, well, do you have the preliminaries? He goes, yeah. He said, I just need to verify the numbers. I said, how about sending them to us? So within an hour, I got a copy of them because I asked for them. And all I did was say, I need a copy of what you got. And he said, they just have to be verified. I go, I got no problem with that. It's tax season. It's 6 days before tax season. So I don't know what we've got, and I don't know why we've got to do something this moment about it. And I understand Adam, if he's interviewing other people for accounting, then I would have thought he would have contacted me before he started interviewing, but he didn't. And I am the treasurer. And I don't think it's unreasonable for him to contact me if he's unhappy with our accounting firm. There, I yield.
yeah, we've been putting up with this for nearly a year. Trying to run this organization, company, with less financial information than we needed in order to make the decisions that we're required to make. I don't see any possible way of extending this agreement with this firm because obviously they don't want our business. And it's not because of tax season. This has been the same game for months. And that's why I said a while ago, I think it's time to cut bait.
Larry, I'm sorry to contradict you, but I'm in total disagreement with that statement. Then months, the financials were up to date last board meeting.
May I
The board
see,
meeting before
may I
that?
see a copy of these financials that are up to date? Yeah, I'd like to see.
Uh-huh.
I'd like to see them. them. Where are they? They have been presented to
So,
the board.
been at the meetings recently and we went over the financials, did we not?
No, sir. Somebody has a copy of updated financials. I would like to see them. Because you can't produce, none of you guys can produce an updated set of financials.
The last meeting, we had an updated,
No, sir, we did not. They were months behind. They have been months behind since the air show. They have been months behind. You guys keep saying they're updated. They're not updated. Those are not updated financials. I can hit a button right now and see everything that my company has done up to the point. We do not have updated financials.
on since February 24.
February. We're in April.
We just finished March.
So we're not doing journal entries throughout the month like any other accounting firm does?
He just said that they had all they needed was crossing the T's and dotting the I's. They had the basics. If you guys are just wanting to change accounting firms because of 1 month, it's a waste of time.
Roger, that's humorous. That's humorous. It's not
Yeah.
1 month, it's
Yeah.
1 year. I have been asking to us approve a set of financials every month. We approved the first set of financials in what month? January,
I believe it was October, November.
October, November. And then we had to make an amendment the next month.
December, we had to go back and make an amendment.
And then in January, we
But you
didn't.
know what? Some of that information, remember all the fuel issues?
The fuel issue that Adam is referring to in this set of minutes, that bringing up the COGS was just last month.
No, there were fuel issues before that. There were fuel issues months ago. Misinformation.
And we were also promised access to QuickBooks Online. And it took basically us threatening them to get access to our own books.
We didn't have it.
We do have access to it.
As of January.
As of January, and it was contractually put in there, was supposed to be available in October, I believe.
So I started on the board in October, so I'm relatively new to all of this, but almost every board packet that Adam sends out, he has to say, I don't have the financials yet. With less than a week before a board meeting, we should be able to have those things done if he's asking for them in a reasonable time. And he asked for them at least this month on March 19th, I think it was. So, I mean, that is plenty of time. And I understand it's tax season, but we're still paying them the same rate as we would every other month. So we should get the same service that we should every other month.
Also,
I have to correct myself. It was our December board meeting that we had the first set of financials, December 12th.
okay, there's another issue that's still out there, and that's our annual audit. And when are we gonna get the information in order to begin the annual audit?
Adam, have you researched other companies for taking over the financials? Is that
Yeah, I'm looking at to find you the date in which we discussed this, but we have discussed this previously where I told you not only the company name, but the rate at which they were several months back. Just to clarify, they have access to our POS system, so they have it in real time. The reason why information was messed up on the fuel is because they were using the wrong report, and they were using the items that were spent, and how items spent, the only way they will become cost of goods sold is when they are sold. They were taking the entire lump sum. For instance, if I bought $100,000 worth of fuel and $100,000 is in the tank day one, and then by the end of the month, we've sold 50,000. That means we have 50,000 of product, which is on the balance sheet, not on the P&L. But what we had in January that I caught my attention, because January was a lower month, that is when I realized that month had 78,000, and it pulls it and does it for us in the system that they have access to in real time. I'm not necessarily against warehouse specifically. It's just we're not getting the product in which we need to run the business. And before the air show in June, I was scalded because I could not give information based on an updated what have we spent for X, Y, and Z, because they were all the way back in December, January timeframe, reconciling our books that they only had access to, that at the time I was running the business blind because they did not have it on QuickBooks Online. I had been pushing for that. We actually were supposed to have that in September. I did not get it until January for QuickBooks Online. And so basically, now that we have tried 6 times that I have pulled from my records this afternoon, which is really what sparked the conversation, which, just to clarify, I'm not asking to change. I'm asking to have the conversation to revisit it from previous months, the end of last year, which we talked about in a board meeting, in an open meeting, changing firms. And so 3/19 was the first time that I had called. We still owe the city of Athens financials right now for our appropriations that I have asked for on for I believe it was either the 26th or the 4th of April. It was the 4th of April that I asked the staff accountant for the financials to present to the city of Athens to get our appropriations check. And so now we're looking bad in the entity's eyes, but this is a reoccurring thing. They have access. In my opinion, they have had more access, and I have had limited access since my tenureship here. And, I have actually fought for them in multiple occasions where Mr. Hall and others on the board have advocated to get rid of them, but I have advocated, no, we can't do that because that will be more work on me because I don't have access. And so I don't know where we are. So I can't carry a new firm into the future until I get QuickBooks Online. I have been doing all the reconciling. I have been doing everything else. When I approached you guys, I think it was either January, February board meeting. I believe it was January. We had talked about the reduced rates for warehouse. I received a $5,000 invoice, and that I called the office on 3/19 asking for an explanation of why is it 5,000 when the rate's supposed to be 1,300. And I've asked the lady, which I talked to, that does the bookings. She says, well, I charge what they tell me to charge. And I said, well, I've asked for a meeting already today. Can you also pass it up internally that I needed to talk about this invoice? Because there's no line item for it. It just says $5,000. And so, all these things stacked up, I'm asking for us tonight to talk about it, to bring it back next board meeting when we have a full board to fully look at it. When they're $1,300 and we're not getting $1,300 worth of services, when I'm having to do all of the reconciling, all they have to do is do journal entries for cost of goods sold. They do our quarterly taxes on payroll because we take payroll internally now. And, it's just one of those times of what's the expectations of an accounting firm, and are they meeting it? In my opinion, as a day-to-day person that operates the airport, no. I'll send for any questions.
All right, so I am the treasurer and I've got a week of vacation at the end of this month. I would like to go with you to go speak with Joseph Wynn and get answers to all of that. If the answer is we're not going to do it, we can't do it, then I'll be the one to suggest we change firms. Is that fair? Is that something you can live with? We'll go together and say, hey, what's the deal? Why can't we do this? Is that all right?
Oh, absolutely. I just think that history.
Let's get it done. Because there's a disconnect here, right? And it isn't helping you and it isn't helping anybody, right?
Yeah, no, I honestly don't think
So
so.
we consider current March or February. Maybe our meeting is too close to the end of 1 month. Because obviously, yeah, he can hit a number and he can hit a number on a computer and get spit out an answer, but he has to reconcile that.
The journal entries are not put in.
I'm just saying that they're accountants and they're not gonna wanna just say, hit an enter key and say, okay, I'm gonna stand by this number until they go by and reconcile it, right?
General good accounting practices are, you put journal entries in as they come in. They have real-time access to our point of sale systems. I don't know what the disconnect here is.
I don't know either. I imagine there's a check and a balance. Maybe it's our meeting is 2 weeks from the end of it's not even 2 weeks from the end of the month. It's 9 days from the end of the month.
No, I think what it really is we're getting junior accountants stuck on our account. Ever since Emily has left, we've had subpar service.
All I know is that Joseph Wynn and I talked this morning and within 45 minutes, I got the financials and he's like, I haven't had a chance to dot the i's and cross the t's on it, but I'll give you what I've got.
Did you call Joseph Lynn today?
I did.
Okay.
What time did you call him?
Why can you?
I called him this afternoon.
Yeah,
He called him this afternoon. I called him this morning at 7:29.
I called at 3/19, the 20th, the 22nd. I emailed on the 20th. I emailed on the 26th. I emailed again on the 4th. They have had turnover where this is my fourth accountant, staff accountant that is on our account.
That's why I'm saying, instead of, getting our backup, why don't we go talk to him? And I'll go with you. And if we don't get a good answer, then I'll be the one to 7:49 is when I called him, not 7:20.
And we sure did change insurance firms quick, but we can't change finance firms, and I wonder why.
John, you were talking about
I don't know Joseph Wynn personally. I don't use him as an accountant. I have no connection with him. I'm not related to him like an executive or anything like that. I have no connection with him. We're out.
I'm just.
And I don't appreciate the accusation. Not like somebody else on this board isn't related to somebody that we do business with. Nathan? Yes, ma'am?
you were talking about the financials.
I would be very careful there.
To date.
I'm sorry?
But you were talking about the financials not being up to date, and because
No.
because it may be too close to the meeting. And if that's the case, okay, but even the February financials are not reconciled and correct. So even if it is too close, they should be done by the April meeting. February should be done.
I have April. He did say that it is tax season. And that's why you didn't a chance to cross the T's and dot the i's.
Season, because it doesn't do everything else, like that's my problem.
If you want to fire him. You've got the votes to fire him. I offered to go on my own time off because I'm the treasurer with the airport manager to see what we could figure out and make things work. If that's not good enough for the board, then it's not good enough for the board. There's nothing to debate.
I've got one other comment. This is the best of my memory. I know this one to be factual. In December, they delivered the minutes, or excuse me, they delivered the finances as you were calling for. Basically, I was coming out of my office. You were calling for the meeting to start and started to talk about the minutes as I had the finances, and I passed them around the room. So I got the financials in December. Technically, let's just 5 minutes before the board meeting. In January, I got them. I'll have to go back and pull emails because, I want to be factual, but it was either the day of or the day before. And then in February, it was the same scenario. I believe it was the day before that I got the financials. And that is with begging and pleading to get those. And matter of fact, on the way to on February, on the way to Fort Worth, Texas for the conference is when I went over the financials via Bluetooth phone call, driving to Texas the day before the board meeting. Yes, they get the email blast, but it is the second Tuesday of every month at 5 o'clock in this boardroom. I will also say that, again, I'm not advocating to make a decision tonight. I'm just bringing the issue before the board. I called one of the firms, one of the bigger firms that a lot of businesses that we work in the community with have recommended. When I started asking questions late last year, he called me, I believe it was within an hour during tax season, to talk to me personally about what rate he quoted previously that I talked about in the board meeting. And we discussed that, in the near future, I would be wanting an update of that. He delivered that in tax season to me before the board meeting today. That's all I have.
Action regarding insurance renewals.
Oh, okay. Insurance renewals. This one is fairly simple. Sarah is most likely watching us actually right now via live stream. I've got Kim here, but it's pretty simple. The auto policy basically went down. If we add the new Kia to full policy premium, the premium amount is less than quoted. This is a renewal as expiring. Prior year was $5,889. Renewal quote is $5,855 $55. This is a decrease of $34. I'll stand for any questions on the auto policy. I'd like a motion to
I have a
approve.
question for Kim. You come up here just to represent Shoreline for this? Thank you. Before we hired Sarah in Shoreline Insurance, we never met our insurance agent.
That's not true.
Well,
That's not true at all.
It is true.
That's not true.
Not in any meeting I was at.
That-
Thank you though.
that-
Thank you for coming up every time. I'll make a motion to accept and approve the insurance.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. You're going to do a roll call vote. Mr. Fowler?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yeah.
Mr. Sherp?
Yes.
Mr. Minor?
Yes,
And I'm a yes.
The second policy in your packet is the property. When quoting as expiring, they did put basically a small percentage of increase based on the times, essentially with inflation for our property. Last year's comparable quote with all items, would have been a total value of $16,663,000. This year's total values are $17,267. This basically equates to a 4% increase in overall values. The premium for last year was $53,432, and this proposed quote as expiring is $56,603. This is basically a 5% increase. So our values went up 4%. Our premium only went up 5%. I'll make recommendation to the board to accept the quotes presented. I'll stand for any questions.
Second.
Mr. Fowler?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Sherp?
Yes.
Yes. Anything else for insurance, Adam?
I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to drop off the call.
All right, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, Adam, anything else for insurance renewal before you move on?
That is it for insurance.
All right, next up, discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding ground leases and long-term leases.
So I'll start with ground leases. This is just information only. We are nearing, and I'll cover this in airport projects, but we are nearing the completion of our Northwest Taxiway and Access Road. So we've got our letters of intent in hand. We have been bringing folks to the sites to look at them. There's folks that are gearing up to entertain long-term ground leases. I should have those before you, before next board meeting, information only, and then bringing them back. There should be 3 total ground leases off of the taxiway. The smallest of the facilities are most likely going to be, and again, this is just 10,000 foot view. The smallest will be about 12,000 square feet. And then it will go up anywhere from 25,000 to 30,000 square feet for the other two facilities. I think this is really good for Pryor. This is good use of the FAA. This is good use of their funds and the state funds. And of course, our funds, as we've got a little more skin in the game this go round than typical airport projects. That's all I have for ground leases. If no questions, I'll move on to long-term leases.
What's the status on AI?
AI, I spoke with them Friday of last week, and they are having weekly meetings. I've reached out to them to set up bi-weekly meetings as they finish up their design. And, our projects obviously are in the works as well. And we're having frequent conversations to all make sure that all of our pavement and elevations and ditches and everything coexist together at the end of the day.
Are they planning on a groundbreaking anytime soon?
I do not have a date. I have asked them for a date so that we can make that a big deal and invite all of our state delegation, congressional delegation, and local elected officials. So as soon as I have that, I will be passing that on so that you all can put that in your calendar and hopefully attend. I believe that all the different projects, it'd be a perfect scenario to celebrate basically the mass of projects that are all coming together for this land to be opened up and be utilized by the airport authority. Their clock starts April of 2025. So building or not, that's when their check is due. No other questions? Move on to long-term leases. So we do have a long-term contract that just kind of fell in my lap this afternoon. We currently are a corporate aircraft association preferred FBO. We have resubmitted to carry forward with that. Technically, I cannot execute that without board motion since it is 3 years. So tonight I'm requesting to execute the corporate aircraft association's 3-year contract to be a preferred FBO continuing. I believe this will be in May, and they asked to execute it once I receive it either today or tomorrow, they said, in a timely fashion so they can have everything buttoned up to roll that carpet out for us yet again another 3 years. I'll stand for any questions on that, but I'm asking the board's permission to execute all documents associated with CAA preferred FBO.
You need a motion for that?
I do, yes, sir.
I'll make a motion.
Yeah, and also to further explain CAA, what that is a Part 91 owner operator, if you will, contract fuel program that we offer here. We are actually the only CAA preferred FBO in North Alabama, the closest, and that you ask them, they may say North Alabama. I kind of call them Central North Alabama, which is Coleman. My good buddy Ben down there has recently joined CAA, but for the past 3 years, up until about, I think 4 or 5 months ago, we were the only in a very wide range of area. We still remain the only CAA preferred FBO in the Huntsville metro area. The next item, in your packet, I brought this up a couple board meetings ago, and we discussed and made some changes. I believe it was January board meeting that we had a sample lease in front of you. The lawyers down in Montgomery have made some minor changes to the lease. Basically, the last couple of bullet points in your lease that's in your packet for them kind of describes what they're looking to change. It's basically all the legal language associated that they're not going to hire foreign nationals and stuff. It's really to better protect them and us. But the rate is still the same. It's $2,430 per month. The other minor change is they've asked for a better explanation of the premises. And so, section number 1, the premises is actually defined by the the width and length of the building. So you see 90 foot by 60 foot corporate hangar B8, which is what it is outlined on our ALP. And then that's referenced there. The only other, like I said, the items at the very back. So this would be item 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17. It's just referencing Alabama law and essentially the ins and outs of federal immigration law. Not boycotting any persons or entity based in doing stuff for the state and open trade. It's just things that they need to check their box for contracts. If no other questions, I would ask the board to make a motion to approve the lease as written.
I'll make the motion. Very happy to have them starting the school here.
I have, I know you answered via email, but I'd like a better explanation of why Calhoun wants to treat these two as separate transactions when this was sold to the board, that the whole reason for doing this and starting this was to gain access to the 5 to 6 acres and for them to sell that to us.
Yeah, and that's a great question. I'll definitely answer that again and a little more detail. To be honest, the conversation started with Calhoun about, I think it was the month after I got here, because obviously going into a master plan that we were doing in conjunction with GMC, we're talking about large facilities, and obviously Calhoun being right there, they were approached by me for 2 things: a Part 141 flight school, because Wallace State has one, and honestly, North Alabama needs a really good Part 141 flight school, and then Part 147 A&P school. They were very lightly brushed because there is a lot of old skeletons in that closet, where the thing that I have been told is that they weren't very happy with the dealings of the property that we tried to buy a few years back. This came from the president, and he was speaking on behalf of folks in Montgomery. And the way that we broached it is, he's brand new to his role, and at that time he was interim. He is now blessed and the president, and he's a great guy, very enthusiastic, and wants to do everything for our communities. Well, the conversation then shifted to where we spoke about having some meetings. There was a meeting with Mr. Vernon Austin that happened with 3 board members to discuss I guess the lineage of us taking that back over. And then there was also discussions at a plant in Decatur about opening up that. And there were talks of the negotiations of getting the land and doing a trade-off. So essentially, we give you the hangar for free, which kind of boogers up grant assurances. So we can't really do that, but that was the conversation. And then, us get the land for free. Well, that math is actually less, when my quick calculation back then, the way that I remember it is, that was less than what we offered them when we tried to buy it previously. And so that was something that wouldn't really blossom into anything. So I had to reconstruct that and basically move forward so that we can actually get it, because we do desperately need that workforce pipeline if we're going to be successful with economic development. And that's something that we can go to trade shows like what I did last month and essentially talk to the entity saying, we've got your workforce figured out, come and build at Pryor, right? And so they respectively asked to do it separately. They asked for establishing the program because they've got a lot of things, a lot of irons in the fire. They got to spend millions of dollars getting engines and possible aircraft and stuff like that to supply their school with what they need to do it. And of course, then they've got the application process with the FSDO to actually become a Part 147 flight school. And I'm not trying to speak for them. This is just me looking into a situation. They wanted to look at it at a later date. And I honestly think that is really good for Pryor, really good for our communities, because we do need them to start the A&P program. And it's a little bit of bend and work with them on their timeline, but they desperately are eager to work with us, and they are entertaining and want to provide the land so that we can, as they grow out of our facility, because it's only 5,400 square feet and it doesn't have classrooms in it. They have to use their old facility that they want to tear down, which is adjacent to the hangars. because of mold and flooding and every other thing. So they would like a facility on the property. And so one thing that we can do is we can sign this 5-year agreement, buys us time. We've got obviously an education fund from the state, and I'm not speaking for the state of Alabama. I'm not speaking for anybody else. U.S. Department of Commerce, they do grants like this, but we could get a grant to build them a facility. But that is something we can worry about next year. Right now, we can get them in a facility to start the school. We can make $2,430 to help cover our investment, since we are making a significant investment in the hangar, and we can recoup some of that money. And then once we get the property, because I told him, I said, there's FA process, there's state of Alabama process. We have to bless that property. We have to go in and do some geotechnical work so we can qualify for grants. And so we need that property as soon as possible. They said in spring of next year work. And so I told him, I said, I believe that that would work just fine. We'll continue down this flight path and hopefully the board will approve and we'll move forward. And so
Saying spring of 2025.
correct. That was the last thing that we talked about a couple of weeks ago when I talked with the facilities director from Montgomery came up and met with us, and the chancellor and everybody else verbally. I don't have anything in writing. Verbally, they are agreeing to giving us the property in hopes that we can build them a larger facility with classrooms for them to rent out, us amortize the cost of the land at their expense. So we're not going and spending tens of thousands of dollars like we did last time. I believe where Hal told me it was almost $28,000 that we spent total trying to survey that property to then not adhere to ALDOT. So it didn't qualify for reimbursement. Again, I was not here. This is what everyone has told me. Let them survey it so that we're not out any money. They come up with the price. We agree on the price. We agree on the terms to build them a facility at a later date to then amortize the cost of the land through a lease. So what that means is if it's $100,000 and, basically the rent is $100,000 a year, that's crazy numbers, but they wouldn't pay anything for the first year, so that they work out the cost of that $100,000 piece of property. And then after that, we will have them for whatever we agree on, 10 years, 15 years. We'll then have market rate that they would then pay.
This was all discussed when the idea about swapping, it was my idea about swapping Burns Hangar, and Adam said, we can't do that because grant insurances, and you were afraid of it spoiling grant insurances. So he came up with that months ago. This isn't something new. And the conversation with Vernon was really more of a lunch conversation with a 94-year-old about, are you about ready to retire? And without kicking somebody out that had been here for 40 years. So that's all that was. It had nothing to do with leasing that building to Calhoun. It was just, hey, Vernon, when are you going to retire? So it really it wasn't a quit or anything like that. But anyway, Adam explained this very, very early on in the discussion about the swap, because he said the swap couldn't happen the way we, had envisioned it. So that was probably a year ago.
I'm not sure. When I speak
Anyway,
with
I
things,
made a motion
it
to
comes back
accept
and
it.
bites me sometimes. So I'm
It
gonna
was
start
about,
with
it
the
was over a
facts.
year ago. But anyway, I make a motion to accept the lease. Actually, point of order, you have a motion, and then you have a second, then you discuss that motion.
Okay.
And then you vote on it.
Okay.
You don't discuss something that you don't have a motion.
Second it. All right, now can I make my comment?
Well, that's, if you're gonna follow Robert's rules.
Okay. So Adam, I have another question. Who told you from Calhoun that we were going to be able to purchase the property specifically? I would like it on record, who specifically from Calhoun told you would be
I
able to
met,
purchase property?
well, I met, and I'm not going to put words in his mouth specifically, but I met with Mr. Jimmy Hodges, the president of Calhoun, and we discussed having the purchase discussion next year.
So you have no documentation or anything from the state board stating that we will have an opportunity to purchase this property?
I have asked their lawyer for it. I have not received anything as of yet.
Okay, thank you. I yield.
Any other comments before call for a vote?
Call the question.
All right, we have a motion and we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Got one opposed. One opposed, motion passes. Before we move on, I do have a question about that. I just wanted to know an update on how construction or update with that hangar is progressing.
So they are progressing pretty well. We've got some weather issues that we've run into. They have, to my knowledge, replaced the skylights. They've replaced the LED, or they put LED lights in the current fixtures. I have the heater in the corner of the room. We have gotten the majority of the old junk out of the facility. They have now put up the interior panels that you see in a lot of corporate hangars, so to protect our insulation. And then they have replaced the sheet metal screws and the pieces of sheet metal off the siding up top, which was causing leaks in the hangar. They have replaced those. So they're waiting on good weather. The update on Friday was 2 weeks. So 2 weeks, they'll have everything for the most part done. And they'll have it back over to us. So I believe that either, depending on the weather, they're probably going to try to start on removing the old fence tomorrow if they get a break.
So this discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding airport projects.
So no board action tonight. By next month, we should have a contract with GMC to carry forward with the Southeast Taxiway for construction. So more to come on that. But starting with the Northwest, just give you an update where we are with everything. Wiregrass has put down the new markings on the taxiway. They have paved the access road. They have started to grade the sides and getting ready for seating and sodding. We were planning a final walkthrough for this coming up Friday. We've now pushed that back due to their issue with getting some subs, but all in all, the project is looking really good for what it is. Just hopefully we can continue to fight for funding and get the second phase, as it's going to be needed for the companies looking to come into Pryor. So we'll keep fighting that fight. That's it really I have for the Northwest. Coming down the line, summer air hangar, as you can see, there's a lot of construction activity going on in this area of the airport. They've got a lot of their steel on the ground. They've got a lot of their siding on coming, if not already here today. They've got a few odds and end pieces of the hangar as well. They have poured the first pour for the hangar, which is basically what I'll call is the footer for the track system for the door, because it is so weight bearing. It's one of those things that you have to do it in multiple pours. And so they are working really well with us. To have two independent contractors in one sandbox gets pretty hairy at times, but all in all, I believe everybody is working really well together. So I'm very thankful of that. Going to the southeast, we got an update from GMC on the sewer project. They had to make several changes and work collectively again with our partners, Dr. Jimmy Hodges at Calhoun Community College, as Limestone County Water and Sewer did not want us to bore up underneath Highway 31 with another high pressure line, so we had to tie into an existing one on this side of Highway 31. So that is actually on Calhoun's campus, and they graciously worked with us on that. Limestone County Water and Sewer had a few changes, as I mentioned. We worked those out, and so hopefully we can stamp those and take those for bid, a 3-week bid in the near future. Boswell called it. And they are going to be receiving those plans here soon to review and give our blessings right before taking that to bid. The taxiway, constantly working with the entities on that to essentially come up with a game plan of how to mobilize, how the project is going to go with obviously several others in the sandbox, and the timeline. We are working with our partners at the state of Alabama and the FAA through the earmark. This project, as we talked about for a while now, it started out as a local only. We applied for we applied for grants essentially and did not receive any. And our focus was on the Northwest. You know, initially we set up the ground lease to be able to afford a bank bond or what we call bridge loan, and let the entity essentially pay for this over a period of time. And then we had to shift focus to the Northwest due to the lack of funding there. And then we started down the path of earmark, and we were able to receive $3.2 million here recently from our Dale Strong office, and he's been a great supporter of the airport. With that being said, we are taking it from a local only project to a federal AIP project. And so what that means is we're having to kind of shift gears and check boxes and meet with people and make sure that everybody is up to speed on things. And so GMC and I have been working a little overtime to check boxes here lately on that. And so more to come on that as far as timeline, but we are working for obviously bid. Going into it, we were probably at about 90% plans, and then that quickly fell down the ladder a little bit because we've had to make some changes and you know, look at a few other things that we were slow rolling on. So we're firing up those steam engines to move forward to get that done for us. So more to come there. Outside of that, you know, we are looking at doing some additional work at the airport for what you all approved last month, where the first phase, as I'll call it, of our apron on right in front of the corporate hangar by the rotating beacon. I have passed that up for comment from ALDOT. ALDOT was with me today at Muscle Shoals at their ribbon cutting, so it may be tomorrow before we hear something back. We'll go through the process that the FAA has designated, and hopefully we can start doing that additions. This will be the parking area over here for GSE equipment, as well as the concrete portion down there in front of the corporate hangar. As soon as I have an update as far as timeline, I'll let you all know that. The last update that I have, as of, I believe it was 2 days ago, we had a long-term ground lease, or a short long-term ground lease, 5 years with GMR Air Evac. They have moved into their facility. I believe it was day before yesterday they started the move-in process. You know, they are you know, great to have here. They obviously provide a lot of benefit to not only the airport, but the communities with their ambulance services. So we're proud to have them here and their support. And I know that it's going to be great carrying you know, that partnership into the future. So that's all I have as far as airport projects. I'll stand for any questions. So this is a item, Chairwoman, that I'd like to table. There's still some research and some things that we've got to look at, but this is something that when I first got here, we didn't have a single deed in this terminal, any archive whatsoever. I've had to go and pull that out. We were not also registered for the Secretary of State as an entity. So our corporation documents from 1980 were never filed. So I've had to go and clean those skeletons out of the closet. It's just been repeat. We've lost our tax exempt. We got that back. And as issues come up, there's just things that we just need to address and fix. You know, per state law, Code of Alabama 1975, there is a very detailed way to operate as an airport authority. And as I get more information, I'll definitely have that, and possibly at a future meeting. But our deeds read, some of them read Pryor Field Airport Board Authority. Some of them read Decatur Athens Airports. Some of them just read the City of Athens and City of Decatur, excluding the two entities. And that was actually purchased in 2000. Again, don't bash me for this on record, but later I'll get the date for you and send that over. But I believe it was 2006, if I do recall. Again, please don't hold me to 2006 as I'm not 100% sure. But 2006, we purchased 6 acres on the south side of the airport, so the airport road can loop around. It was a collaboration of multiple families and the college as well, and that was needed for our basically our RPZ, or safety area for our critical aircraft, as well as our localizer that is located down there. So with that being said, everything is wrong as far as our deeds go, and it's just one of those skeletons in the closet that we need to address, and we need to clean those things up. So more to come on that, Chairwoman. So this is a topic that definitely just a discussion item. I believe probably the month after I got here, there was multiple things that were asked of me from different board members. There's some of things that were asked that we haven't truly addressed yet, but this is one of them. Hanger rent, the box hangers that we have, they're 42 by 33. And then the larger ones, I believe, are 48 by 38. Again, don't quote me on that. I don't have that number in front of me. I apologize. But with that being said, we did, however, pass recently a square footage rate because of the corporate hangar that we needed to lease out to Calhoun Community College. We approved that at 45 cents per square foot. I have done a little bit of studying for various things around the state of Alabama, and I've pointed out a few things to bring up tonight. One, the what I call basically the shadow box, or the awning hanger, if you will, that is located at Hartselle. I have called and tried to rent one of those, and the price of that is $170 per month. The same shadow box at Auburn University, which is kind of our, stepsister or big brother, depending on how we look at it. Their shadow box is $195 per month. They've got hangars at Auburn that are actually a little bit smaller than ours, and they've got less amenities than us. They are structured the same way, where they only pay for just the utilities, so the lights in there. They don't pay for the pest control and other things that we do here now. But with that being said, theirs is the push doors. It's roughly a 40 by 34 box hanger at Auburn. Is $445 a month. The cheapest hanger at Auburn, which is the old Tees, I believe it's on the west side of the property, is $300. Just to kind of reiterate some other numbers, storage facilities. I've got a storage unit. It's a 5 foot by 8 foot. The price per square foot is 72 cents. So if we take our 42 by 33, that equates to about 900 and some change. So obviously aeronautical, we give really good rates, and we want to continue doing that. Our lease for our box hangers, it is not in our community hanger lease, to my knowledge. I've read it several times, and I'll have to reread it again just to say, without a shadow of a doubt, it's not in there. But however, in the box hangers, those leases, they read that consumer price index increase annually October 1. We have not done that since 2019. And so what I'm proposing that we discuss and bring back at the next board meeting is a 28% increase to bring us up to the times. And we reevaluate at a later date on those rates. So that would bring the box hangers from $250 is what we charge to $320. The larger ones at the south end will go from $350 to $448, and the community hanger would go from $150 to $192. Obviously, I think that this is something that is going to be a sore subject for several folks. One thing that I would recommend that we do from a day-to-day operations standpoint is, my goal is I want people to fly. I want people to fly. Obviously, it makes our avgas numbers look good. It makes our operations look good, helps us justify projects. And so what I think as a halfway point is we don't adopt this until October 1. So we got ample time at the current rate. And then at October 1, we actually change it so that those tenants that we have here, they get full service at self-serve price. So they don't have to go to the pump anymore. We'll give them full service price, full service, excuse me, at self-serve price. Just to kind of talk numbers one more time, as I've got one more note here. Based on what you all approved, I believe it was, I'm not going to say, it was sometime at the end of last year. But y'all approved the 45 cents for the bulk hanger, essentially, so that we could accommodate corporate partners, whether if that's some folks that are entertaining building a facility and need a spot, if we had a spot, or Calhoun, with their A&P program. 45 cents, our box hangers at 42 by 33, that would equate to $623 per month. And so the new rate for those hangers would only be $320. So, basically, a little more than half of what it would be if it was someone else, like a corporate partner. I will say there are some airports up in Tennessee that are far more expensive. They are a different class of airport, and so I did not include them. But that's where I'm at. And like I said, no decision tonight. I'm not asking for a decision tonight. If you make a decision, that is your prerogative as a board. I'll stand for any questions. So for the month of March, we had a really good month. Jet A sales, we sold 25,514 gallons. It is lower. We kind of had an outlier month for the 2023 time period. 2022 March, I think we sold, that was right when I come on board here. We sold, I believe it was 14,900 and something gallons. So 25,000 gallons is really good for the month of March. I believe that usually the month of March we see a huge kickoff of cargo. This month has been, the month of March has been a little bit slower. We're seeing that this month. And so it's kind of cyclical in this industry, as I've said before, but those are really good numbers. Prior month, we sold 28,035 gallons of Jet A. Mr. Miner asked to bring the annual total year to date for this year is 133,679.73 gallons of Jet A. The previous year, year to date for the same time period is only 122,351 gallons. So, it's very good to see that increase there. 100 low lead avgas, we sold 4,117.85 gallons in the month of March, comparing that to 4,710.05 gallons for 2023. Again, I'd love to see our GA population fly. Month prior, we sold 4,082.92 gallons. Just to kind of tell you how that compares to other airports. Again, I talk about Auburn a lot because we can kind of compete with who's the best airport in the state, right? They got a very good facility down there. They've got a very good flight school. They sometimes sell over 4,000 gallons a day of avgas. And we're selling that a month. In Oklahoma, at my previous airport, we started out with 47 base tenants. I ended with 98 base tenants. We started with 0 flight schools. I ended with 3 flight schools. One of them was a Robinson R44 and R22 flight school. I was selling 15,000 gallons a month at that small of a airport. Basedaircraft.com today, and what the state of Alabama was in my office showing me on the airport master record, 5010, was 141 based aircraft here. 99% of those, 98, 99% of those are GA airplanes. So we're just not flying. So we are one of the lowest. We are the absolute lowest in the Huntsville Metro as far as I believe today we're still beating Hartsville's self-serve price. But Avgas price, we remain competitive, and we hope that those numbers will continue to increase. The month prior, we sold 4,082.97 gallons of avgas. Annual total year to date is 23,710.83 gallons. The previous year to date is 29,699.02. Now, what happens is across the board, the price of a gallon of avgas has increased. Coming out of COVID and during COVID, we saw really, really low avgas. So there were obviously a lot more people flying because they could afford to do so a little bit better. So hopefully those tenants that are flying the piston engines, they'll continue to do so. And some other folks, when the warmer months and clearer months come up, they'll start to fly. And so these numbers will equal out before the end of the year. FBO operations by the numbers. Something that we've been asked to look at. For this time period, avgas revenue was 23,442. Cost of goods sold, which is in our system. I don't have to be some whiz with a green hat to come up with this. Our cost of goods sold for avgas is 17,000. Jet A revenue is 128,000. The cost of goods sold for the time period is 81,000. This equates to a gross profit margin of 35%. As far as FBO fees, I have been giving that out. I don't have that number for you tonight, but it's around 15,000. Now, granted, FY21, and I keep bringing it up, we charged FBO fees for the entire year that equaled basically, let's round up, 26,000. So that is really good. I do know that as of right now, we're knocking on the door year to date of almost $100,000 in FBO services fee wise. And so this is forklift services. This is facility fees. This is heavily to do with overnights. This is heavily to do with, those type of operations from our corporate partners. This is not something that our base tenants are getting charged. The only time in this entire period that a base tenant has been charged a fee is when someone has asked to tug their airplane from their hangar up to another location because they didn't want to start the engine, and that's a $25 fee that you all approved at some point in the past. So there's only been, to my knowledge, one fee associated with anything to do with a tenant, and that's all I have as far as the FBO report. I'll stand for any questions. If no questions, I'll go into the Bertower report very quickly here. Total operations for the period, which the period is basically March 1 through the 31st. We got a total operations of 1,201. To go through some of these operations very quickly. Single engine operations 906, multi-engine turbine 31, multi-engine 18. We have single engine turbine was 31, multi-engine turbine was 51, business jets 144. That is something that we continuously see increase. Now this next one, helicopter operations. This time last year, we had the Guard training every Guard unit in the country right here in Huntsville Metro on the Bravo model of the Lakota. They've all been checked out. They've all gone back and doing their own checkouts for their people. And so now we are missing those operations. But helicopter operations, our partners at Air Evac, 28 operations. Now we do miss quite a bit of helicopter because they don't come in normal pattern. They'll come direct. Military 15, military helicopter 4, light sport 2, and other 2. That other is going to be classified essentially as an airliner. So it's going to be in like an MD-83 or something very large. The only other thing that other can be classified in Bertower is an ultralight or a gyrocopter. To my knowledge, during the time period, we did not have any of those. So that would be a heavier aircraft. Talk about some of the specific business jets, as I like to do. XLS Plus 12 operations, Sovereign 2, Challenger 10, Embraer EMB 120, 8, Falcon 28, Learjet 75, 24, Premier Jet 26, just to kind of give a few there. some larger turboprops outside of the, which by the way, business jet, I noticed here it says EMB 120. That's a turboprop. So I need to tell him about that because that is not a business jet. That is a turboprop. And then Metros, obviously, our partner with Waterfall Freight Holdings, as we see based here and tied down here where they're not in operation. We've had 10 of those during the time period. I'll stand for any questions on Bertile. If no questions, public involvement. Recently, I was able and blessed with the opportunity to go to Athens Middle School to talk about careers in aviation and airspace and what that means for the state of Alabama, more specifically North Alabama, more specifically Limestone County. We were able to, through our budget, do a paper airplane challenge where I was able to give 2 introductory flights away to students. And so waiting on those student names so that we can type up the certificate with one of our partner flight schools here at the airport. So just blessed with their enthusiasm to learn about that. ACA, involved with ACA. Today, me and the president of ACA went to Muscle Shoals during ribbon cutting to celebrate a 25,000 plus hangar that Muscle Shoals and the Shoals EDA team was able to get funding for. And that hangar is very nice and looking forward to some of those being built here in the future by third party entities. ACA, we're pushing our agenda that I brought up to you all previously about, the lack of funding in the state of Alabama, and that's something that we're continuously pushing and talking about. One other thing, I'm on boards, we're serving on various boards, EDA boards, and there's a lot of movement and growth in Limestone County, North Alabama. And so that's really good for the airport because even if they're not specifically on airport property, those executives still fly in, and we're getting executives flying in that's going all the way to Cortland for facilities because that's where they're based at, and they're renting cars and all that is really good for us. The other thing I'll mention, Athens State, they have come to me about a partnership. Obviously, we know about a wonderful partnership with Calhoun. Athens State wants to do a partnership, and they want to offer not only our employees with the authority, but all partners. So this is tenants. This is people that are having businesses here. They want to offer a 10% discount to all of our folks. They're looking at the May 24th to have the signing. There's nothing that we're required of outside of maybe helping in some marketing for them as they market us. And so more to come on that. I'll send some emails on the dates and time once they're firmed up. But this is great for us. This is just a kind of formality to say that we're partners and get the press out here and do like an actual signing with that. The good thing is the folks that are looking to fly here, they can learn about things at Athens State. Athens State has the same business aviation program that I graduated from the College of Auburn University with, but it's a fraction of the cost. And so they want to spread awareness of what they do in aviation airspace, and they want to partner with us because they're getting an ROTC program as well, and they would really love to have a airport partner with them. And so we're blessed to be able to do that. Decatur Public School Foundation has reached out to me and only 3 other entities in the Huntsville Metro to do an internship for the summer for one of their students. These are very high performing interns. I think the cutoff for their GPA is very close to 4.0. So with that being said, they are paying for this student to come and intern with us. So there'd be no cost to the authority. It's just getting a young person the experience. The person that has been selected per the panel for us is it wants to be an aeronautical engineer. And so in June, he'll be out here. There will be a formal signing. I believe the date, and I'm going to send this out, is going to be April the 10th. If I'm not No, that's not right. I'll get you the date because I don't think it's April 10th. But yeah, in the short term, it's just a formality to make them feel special. It's nothing. It's not like the Athens State signing where it's more a community thing. This is just to make the student feel special and to kind of give him a little bit of shine and the light there. So this would be really good for us. That's all I've got for public involvement.
Got one thing to add to that. That is our CAF chapter has been bringing quite a bit of publicity.
Yes.
The Pryor field, both media, TV, and print. But every time they get something like the visit or like the thing with the Korean vet here recently, Pryor field, Pryor field, Pryor field.
Absolutely. I think anytime that comes off of someone's lips is a good thing because, they're kind of sharing that message. Something I like to say that we're creating air evangelists. It's informed citizens of what we do in the aviation aerospace industry, which is something that's lacked in the state of Alabama for a very long time because Alabama is an aviation aerospace state. Just no one knows about it. Any other questions on that before moving on? The next item I've got on here, I don't have much details. I just wanted to get it in front of the board. This is just something that, again, people have, board members even have stated that we have looked at doing this in the past, bringing some food trucks out for like a fly-in Saturday and just inviting the flying community out to Pryor Field, buy a hamburger, obviously little to no cost. If anything, it would be out of budget, but it'd be no cost essentially to the authority or the airport. And hopefully we can sell some avgas with that and get some PR and then let some folks like the CAF, CAP, and other partners that are here at the airport get their due diligence to get their name and get their organization out in front of folks. And so more to come on that. But I'm thinking sometime in May having that first one and maybe another one later in the summer, depending on how all of it goes. I'll send for any questions on that. If none, that's all I've got, Chairwoman.
I'd like to preface my comments this evening by first thanking each of you for sitting on the board and for Adam to be being our manager. I believe that each of you have the airport's best interest at heart, and that's not lost on myself or many other pilots here locally. I would like to say that in regards to the discussion of hangar rent increases, what we have been hearing over the past year, since we have had a more active board, is that corporate aviation is what pays our bills and what is going to deliver this airport into the future. These pictures over there show great expansion. What's visible now on the north end, great. However, that really doesn't do anything for us lowly GA pilots that are based here. In fact, it could be said that it causes us more trouble. We're going to have to deal with more traffic, more congestion. And I was quite happy with the airport before all of this occurred. But I'm not going to stand in the way of progress. So I can appreciate the need to, have new features and new availability for local businesses because it does bring new businesses and employment to the community. I have personally had to fix leaks on my roof of my hangar, my roll-up door. I've had to have that restrung all at my own expense, and I have not asked for any reimbursement whatsoever from the board. So before you increase my hangar rent or the rent to my hangar neighbors, I would like to appeal to you to really think hard about that because I'm not seeing any benefit, any additional amenities. We got a bathroom, thank you so much. That was 3 years late for having a bathroom on the south end. So I don't want to sound like I'm ungrateful for the things that have occurred. We've got new LED lights, which has saved the airport money on utilities. I'm grateful for being able to see. But I don't believe that increasing our rate just because is needed at this time. I would appreciate some additional amenities, some maintenance to be done. I have water running through one of my hangars. If my esteemed colleague Daryl was here, he could tell you greatly about the water from the college runoff running into our hangars here on the row just south of the FBO. So with that, I would appeal to you to table that discussion until what we, as the public, been billed is the corporate aviation is going to pay our way. So let them do it, not on the people that are living here, that buy all of our fuel here, that have our maintenance performed here. That's my say. But I am grateful and appreciative of each of you. And now that we have a board, and for Adam, I don't want my comments to feel like, for you to feel like I'm ungrateful for all that you've done, because you've done an excellent job. And I would just like you to take those comments into consideration. Thank you.
Any other public comments? Adam, I would like to make a public comment as a tenant, so switching sides. I know you and I have talked multiple times about the ceiling issue in the community hangar, and I think that is an important thing that we need to make sure we take care of, or at least have a plan in place before, raising rent. Not only as a tenant do I have issues with it, but as a board member, I get text of pictures from other of my fellow community hangar tenants that are sending me pictures of all the things that are either coming into the hangar or falling from the hangar. I know, who knows what it actually is. I know we kind of have different opinions on where the stuff comes from, but as a tenant, I do think we need to get that taken care of before raising rent. I think it may be somewhat taken care of in one. I'm not sure, but I do think that needs to be looked at before the October 1st, whether we, if we approve that for October 1st, I think that needs to be looked at before.
I'd like to make a public comment. I appreciate both of your comments, and I think the community hangar, the fans on the community hangar need to be seen about, because there's a humidity problem in there, and I think that'll end up being a liability problem. These airplanes that sit in there for decades that don't have full tanks will end up with water in them, and it's from the water condensing in the fuel tanks. So, and I think that's probably what you're talking about with, you walk in the hangar sometimes, it looks like it's raining in there, right?
Yeah, there's also like literal chunks of stuff that have
Yeah.
either come off or moved off or blown in or something.
Airports are kind of like an alloy, you can have strong or you can have brittle or sharp metal, but you need an alloy to have a really strong, endurable metal. And, corporate airplanes make us a lot of money and allow a lot of good things for the airport, but the general aviation airplanes keep the lights on too. So, it's both. I guess it's the point. And the reason we're looking at corporate airplanes, I think, is because airports like Meigs Field that just disappeared. And there was an airport in California that the community just decided we don't need an airport because rich guys can go somewhere else and have an airplane. And that's the last thing we want here. If we're going to have an airport, it's going to serve everybody. And the corporate airplanes serve the guy that, and the gal that works at the factory here. So it's both.
And I agree.
I know you know that. I'm just soundbite.
I would
Anyway,
like
for what it's worth.
let's take it a little further down the road before it
But-
comes off,
but-
because we had years of nothing.
Right. And we've got 3 corporate jets based here right now. We've got ASC that's got 2, right? They've still got 2 and
Technically, we got 4. We got the derelict one, but yeah,
well, that's not good.
it's an end number.
We got vision groups that have a jet. So, we really are a general aviation airport. And I don't think we compare to Auburn at all. I mean, they're way ahead of us as far as grant money and activity. But anyway, thank you for the comment.
new things for the terminal and new things for the businesses coming in and a new crew car. And then it seems like, at least for me, the community hangar is falling stuff on my airplane. So I see the disconnect there and I understand what you're saying. Any other comments?
I'll just make one comment. I agree with everything that's said. Looking at it from a business standpoint, I don't believe that if I allocate everything with the revenue generated, because we can boil that 250 or that 150 probably down to about a very small fraction of that being revenue.
Right.
We know that it was $12,000 to replace the sheet metal screws and put a coating on the Arco hangar. There is a ton of needs at this airport. You know, we spend a tremendous amount annually. It's $130,000 on maintenance and what's allocated in our budget. And let me tell you, we're spending it. And I fix things as I know about them. So I would charge everybody to get me a list, because if I don't know about it, then I can't fix it. As lights deteriorate and fall out, we put new LED in there. We do preventative maintenance on doors annually. I'm not saying that we've got probably the best contractor in the world to do that, but we've got 57 hangars at this airport. Two of them are long-term ground leases. 2 of them are classified as corporate hangar. The rest are GA. So technically, in my opinion, from a business, I applaud you from everything, but I would push back just a little bit. And I'm not saying it's my personal agenda to increase rent, but if I've got to do this maintenance, we're going to have to find the money somewhere, because I don't want to go after our coffers, because I've got people on this board that say that we don't have the money to do those things. And I like to have a revenue stream to tackle the expense that I have incurred. Okay. And so it's kind of one of those things that it's like I can run circles around trying to find ideas, but none of them are going to work without having the extra money come in. So we need to fly. We need to buy avgas, because that's revenue from GA and it's not there. Could we go in and put, if you're not flying, you've got a fee, just like these corporate folks that fly in. If they don't buy fuel, we charge them fee based on their aircraft. So, prime example, the jet that took off earlier, they paid $300 in a facility fee. They actually got 791 gallons. Just our policy is, if you're flying cargo, you still pay a facility fee. Those folks are paying our bills, and honestly, it's not going to a coffer or a fund for capital improvement. We don't have enough for capital improvement. We barely got enough to do the maintenance that's actually needed, because what has plagued this airport is 45 years of neglect. And in the past 2 years, I want to go on record and say this: Adam Fox has pushed this board to do everything possible to do maintenance. Before, we had 3 years of bathroom, we had a horrible porta-john that we were paying $211 a month for the last 3 years. You talk about, an expense that doesn't need to happen and not having the funds. That was piss poor business decision. And there's been a lot of those things. And so from a business standpoint, that's the reason why I'm bringing it for the board. I'm open to all things, and I am welcome anyone to come to my office or set up a time to discuss it, because I want to know about every issue so that I could recommend to the board that makes the decision what's best for the airport. I am excited about the future, and I'm excited about the GA folks and doing the fly-ins and doing other things for us. But I do think that we are doing things for the GA folks, not to push back, but we could be doing more, and we have to do more. It just takes money. So hopefully we can come a happy medium. My proposal of the self-serve price is not to punish those that are flying, but there's a lot of folks that have airplanes here. Now, I love it because we are the #1 general aviation airport in the state of Alabama, 78 airports total on our based aircraft. The only thing Auburn beats us in is obviously fuel sold in operations. We're the fastest growing airport in the state of Alabama with our grant money, 9 million, 9 point whatever million. I'm not going to say because it'll come back on me, but 9 million and some change is what we've doing here at it's things that have never been done before. And yes, the corporate partners bring in because they buy more, they do things more, but I come from, I mean, I'm a GA pilot just as everybody else. And so, obviously, as John's mentioned, GA keeps the lights on, keeps people here for that corporate partner. And I don't disagree. I think that's a very accurate statement. I really hope people start flying because we could skin the cat, many different ways. But it takes a lot of money. I've replaced a roof on a 21,000 square foot World War II hangar, just like the one we have here. And I did that in, I believe it was 2019, 2020 timeframe, $150,000 to replace that roof. Our entire hangar needs to be stripped and it needs new sheet metal on all the sides. Part of the reason that you mentioned that we kind of talk back and forth on things, we get stuff inside of the community hangars. And then when the wind blows, it just blows everything because, there's sheet metal missing at the bottom. And so it's a fan issue. It's a sheet metal issue. It is a inside paint issue. And that's the way I'll classify it. If I went and got quotes like I did with the Arco hanger, we're taking care of the Arco hanger. My next goal is to take care of the next hanger, the next hanger. We need to reseal the tops of every GA hanger. I brought contractors out here to get prices on that to see if I can do that within the allotted budget this year, because it's one of the things that I plan to do. Now we are having to spend extra money on other things. But it's one of the things that I plan to do and wanted to do, reseal all the GA hangers. One thing I did do recently is the number one thing that's corrosive from a rodent thing is rat pee for GA. And me personally, at a previous airport, I've had rats come in and eat the wires off of the avionics of a bird one time. And so we're taking care of that. We've got, I believe it's 66 bake boxes. Previously at this airport, tenants had to pay for that. And we're paying that out of our budget. And we're also spraying for insects. And so if you see a lot of bugs in your hangar, hopefully they're dead. If not, hopefully they're going to die. And it's because we're taking care of those things. And so we're making leaps and bounds. I think it's definitely going to take a long time to get there. And so I'm open for all suggestions. I'm just seeing a need and trying to tackle it.
I'll let you know when I come back in town and we'll set up a appointment with Joseph. Okay.
Okay.